What if there was a diagram that could understand consciousness, that could understand emotions, the way that we split everything out and we polarize things between two poles specifically, hot, cold, up, down, narcissism, altruism? What if there was a way that we could understand the way that our emotions captivate us and throw us to and fro, the way that we perceive things consciously, but we are so unconscious to the opposite side? What if there was a way that you could understand yourself and how to minimize the gap in between polarities and be able to choose a distinct point in time where you know the downsides, you know the upsides, and you can choose your experience? That's what we're talking about today on this episode of the Rise Movement podcast. Make sure that if you're here on audio and you're listening to me make words out of my face, it's probably not the greatest podcast episode to be doing so. So if you're over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this, click the link in the description, jump over to YouTube when you got a piece of time to be able to sit down and understand this great diagram that I am recording right now for you guys. This diagram I got taught in probably 2017 and it blew my mind. It made me understand things at a whole other level. And that's my hope for you guys today, is that you understand things from an emotional perspective inside of yourself and in the outside world at a whole other level. Honestly, it just makes it seem so much more simple. It's a very complicated diagram, so we're going to go step by step by step. I'm going to show you examples inside of my life and maybe inside of your lives for understanding this. Welcome to the Rise Movement podcast, a place where legends just like you learn how to raise your standards everywhere. So that long-winded introduction out of the way. Welcome to the Rise Movement podcast. I'm Dave. We're kicking off in 2024. This one here, like I said again, this is the last warning. Get over to the video. You need to watch the video on this one because it's going to break down everything perfectly in a distinct manner so you can see exactly what is on the screen. All right, let's get into it. Hope you've all had an amazing Christmas and New Year's period. We're going to be diving headfirst into this one so that you can get on the same page as I am when it comes to your emotions, because emotions are to be energy in motion. However, if you're deliberate and you're coming from light archetypes and your perception of the present moment is pure, you'll be able to see divinity in absolutely everything. So let's get into the video. So before we get started on the video, I'm going to lay down where I actually learned this from, because I want to give some credit to my previous mentor and to his mentor. I've also learned from him indirectly as well. So I learned this model of consciousness from my mentor, Lewis Mocker, back in 2017. He taught me a host of amazing things that have helped shape the way that I perceive the world around me, the way that I perceive myself, put me on the straight and narrow path towards my North Star. So thank you, Lewis, for that. And then he learned it from Dr. John Demartini. I've learned indirectly from John through his online stuff, through his podcast, through his videos, through his interviews. I first saw John on the documentary The Secret by Rhonda Byrne back in, I want to say 2007. And I was befuddled by what was coming out of his face, because I couldn't believe the level of intelligence and sophistication, but also simplicity, the way that he broke down everything inside of that documentary. It stuck with me ever till this day now. It's 2024, pretty wild. So Lewis built on top of what John taught him with his own sprinklings of awesomeness, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. This map of consciousness, I'm going to bring things like archetypes, I'm going to bring things about energy perception, but I'm going to be building on heavily from what Demartini and Lewis have both said. So let's dive into the model here. So this is the RISE model of consciousness. I'm going to be going step by step as I'm recording this. I'm going to be doing the diagram in person while we're doing it as well. So we're going to start off here. In this beautiful black screen we have here, you'll notice that there is a green dot. That green dot in the middle is you. You are in the present moment, and in the present moment, there are a few things. So guys, in the present moment, we have light, everything is love. That is the highest expression of human emotion that you can get to, is love. Then we have no time. Time goes out the window. Time is a human construct that operates from the fourth dimension. A little bit woo-woo, it's a little bit further out there, but time is a construct that we go into the fourth dimension to be able to create and manifest from there. And also in the present moment, there is infinite space. When you are perfectly present in the moment, there is nothing around you that can distract you. There is perfect photons of light. There is intense amounts of unconditional love. and there is infinite space. Space and time are two beautiful things for you to contemplate. It's a little bit of a sidebar, but that's where I want to leave that. From here, we move on into polarization. And the way that we're going to polarize it is one side over here where my mouse is going to be the future, and one side over here is going to be the past, opposites of one another, opposites in perception. Then we're also going to polarize it in a negative perception down here where my mouse is, and also in a positive perception up here where my mouse is. So I'll draw those in now. The reason why we have past and future being infinite is because time, like I said before, operates as a man-made construct. We created time to be able to make a measurement for while we're in the 3D. When you're in the 4D or the 5D, different levels of consciousness of the mind, your perception of time is vast. Time goes out the window. Time is a construct, like I said. So you can have infinite future in your timeline. You can have infinite perspectives in your timeline. You can have infinite past. So this is not only your life, this is also the past things that happen from a generational perspective. This could be past trauma. This could be past generations. This could be any of the generational work that you're doing inside of your life. This could be things passed down from a past life. I want you to make sure that you're paying attention to this, because this is going to give you a massive, massive insight. So we've got here plus 100, minus 100, future, past, and the present moment right now. So I know looking at this can be quite confronting. That's why we're going to go through it together. So here you are in the present moment. You are sitting here in presence, light, love, infinite space, no time. Your perceptions are just aligned. There's no polarity, there's no time. Everything is perfect in the straight and narrow right now, okay? This is the present moment. It's perfect, okay? It's divine. Everything is right on time when you live in this place. However, the moment that you have a split of polarity, you fall from grace, you fall from divinity, from infinite intelligence, from God, call it Allah, call it whatever you want to call it. That label of perfection right in the center, that is all knowing, all time, all space, just omnipresent, omniscient, just perfect, okay? The moment you fall from grace, you have the split, you fall down and out. And the level that you fall down and out determines how you perceive things. So let's go through the positive perspectives. Let's talk about this bugger here, the pride. The prideful person is someone that has a great thing that they have done for other people in the past. Something that they can feel really strongly with, really divided, really polarized by, to the level of positivity in the past. These positive memories of the past will do something in the future as well, but they will also cast a negative perception that you're unconscious to. Remember, there's a light shining on me right now. You can see the shadow moving around in the background. Every piece of light that you perceive is your consciousness casts a shadow to the other side. So where you have pride, there is also resentment, guilt, and shame. Now, if you might have said, shut the fuck up, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about, stick with me because I'm going to explain it. This thing that you have a positive experience of the past casts such a big shadow, determining on the level of 0 to 100 when it comes to the positivity, that you're unconscious to the opposite side. So the more conscious of the pride that you have to something that was positive that happened to someone else, that you did for someone else, you will cast the opposite level of narcissism into the future. You will act narcissistically to other people, or perceive narcissistically to other people, because of this level of pride. The level of resentment that you experience, negativity, 0 to 100, you will cast altruism to the future, because you feel that there's something negative that happened. You want a fantasy to balance it out as well. The same thing. Notice the people that act the most guilty, the most shameful, the ones that have experienced the most amount of quote unquote negative bad things of guilt and shame in their past. What do? They give altruistically. They have this fantasy of winning the fucking lottery. They have this fantasy of things being better in the future. Things are going to be great when? No, things are great right here, right now, because you're polarizing everything. Same thing. If you have a thing that happened in the past, you're infatuated with this thing, this time, this space, this event, all of a sudden, you now have a fear of it being taken away from you. You will move on the outskirts of this thing until you collect yourself and you bring yourself back to the present moment. That's what mindfulness is. That's what meditation is. That's what hypnosis is. That's what getting into the subconscious mind. That's what operating in alpha and theta brainwaves is. Everything is bringing you from being so stretched out right into the present moment, being present with what is right now. Pause for effect. because that is so fucking important. This is the biggest lesson that you can learn when it comes to your emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. So what do? They keep fucking around. They keep moving on the outskirts, determining how you think, feel, and act because they're polarizing you. The level of guilt that you have, you're casting altruism. The level of fear that you have of the future is because that you're afraid of this thing being taken away. You're infatuated with what used to be, this good thing that happened to you. You're afraid of it being removed from you. The narcissism that you produce and project into the future is because you're prideful about how you used to act in the past. The resentment that you have from the past makes you create this fantasy of the future. Everything happens inside of this here. If you can understand this diagram and learn to be able to collapse the polarities, and part of the Demartini method is actually collapsing the polarities. So let's say that you had a guilt and a shame of something you did to someone else. Say you manipulated a female, you fucked her over and you took her into bed and you bed her very, very well, but she had a boyfriend, but she was engaged, she was married, she had kids, she had a house that you just wrecked. Then you're going to have a large amount of shame around this thing. And the thing that you do in the future is you cast this altruistically. You're the shoulder to cry on. You might volunteer in a philanthropic endeavor because you don't feel like you're worthy, because you have guilt, shame, and resentment around the way that you treated other people. You now have this altruistic need to give. You work in a non-for-profit, you work for Lifeline, you work for a crisis counseling, something like that. You're a coach, you're a healer. You're someone that feels so fucking bad about the thing that they happened in the past, that is like a negative 90% in your perception, that you give positive 90 in the future. It's balanced. Everything is always perfectly balanced. Think of it this way. When you're in the present moment, everything is divine, in line, and right on time. That's one of Demartini's quotes. Everything is perfect. The moment that you fuck things up and you polarize things, you have a embodied perception because your light of consciousness is showing you the things that you want, the fantasy. You're going to cast an unconscious thing as well. So the way that we fix this is you figure out the level of intensity that you experience this. So say I've got a fear of the future, fear of losing my daughters. Let's work through that one there. A fear of losing my daughters, they're dying in a car crash or something like that. I have, say, probably it's a decently polarized charge. I'd say that's probably a negative 30. Let's go with 30. So the way that I would work this out is I would have to think of 30 positives, 30 good things to be able to balance out that negative perception of the future. Now, how are you meant to get over your children dying in the future if that's a big fear that's holding you back? It's not a fear that's holding me back. It's just a perspective. It's an example. How would you work that out? How would you be able to come to terms with and find the positives in your daughters being taken away from you? It's challenging, isn't it? That's why it's so important to do the work, because what we're doing right now is effectively shadow work. We're working through energies, we're working through archetypes, we're working on generational trauma, we're working on our experience of reality through these 8 emotions and understanding that there is presence, perfection, divinity in every single moment of every single day. It's our human emotions, it's our human perspective that fucks things up and changes and polarizes things. Right now, I'm going to say this is going to be controversial. Right now in the world is perfect. How did that make you feel? When I said that out of those noises out of my face, that the world is perfect right now, it's divine, in line, and right on time, what's your perception of what I just said? Oh, you're naive, Dave. There's fucking bullshit in the world. Yeah, maybe. That's your perception. We had something that happened last year in our family. Thanks to this model that I have in front of me, I've worked on my perceptions of how this has happened. The negative perception that I had of it, there is unconscious positives that happened in that moment. There's also unconscious positives of it happening in the future, but there is also unconscious negatives of it happening in the future. This thing here is perfect in presence, in time, in space. It was hard to work through, absolutely. And that's why I encourage people to go do the work, to go do shadow work, to go to therapy, do counseling, do whatever it is that you need to do. But ultimately, if you want a really fast way of getting over some trauma, getting over a guilt, shame, resentment, fear, narcissism, whatever thing that you perceive and whatever level that you perceive it, just reverse the polarity. Oh, Dave, it's not that easy. Yes, it fucking is that easy. Your perception is the thing that is keeping you as human, is keeping you down and out, it's keeping you polarized. It is the thing that is making you other people. It is the thing that is making you determine left versus right in politics, good versus bad, up versus down, love versus hate. It is the measurement of the exact same thing. It's measurement of humans. This model here, if you truly understand it and you do the work and you write down all the points, even though it's going to be painful, it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, you will figure out that everything is divine, in line, and right on time. It is perfect. And now moving forward, I'm going to say this right now. I could have a moment tomorrow where something could happen where, God forbid, Rach gets taken away from me, she dies. God, I hope that doesn't happen. If that happens in the future, there will be a grieving process, absolutely. You go through the 5 emotions of grief. However, doing this work, I'd be able to neutralize that perception of her dying really, really easily so that I could have nothing but unconditional love for her. I know it. I know because I've done this so many times with myself. If this is sounding out of left field and it's sounding a little bit hard for you to fathom, I'm going to put down some links to Dr. John Demartini's work, and I suggest that you pay attention to his podcast, pay attention to his YouTube channel and his socials and everything like that. Read his book, The Breakthrough Experience. Go do the Breakthrough Experience. I'm actually doing it this year. I can't fucking wait. I'm so excited for that. Also read The Values Factor and The Gratitude Effect. I believe that's what they're called. Anyway, I'll put it up as visuals here. His stuff has revolutionized the way that I perceive the world. Thanks to working with Lewis Mocker as well, being in his mastermind, seeing his content and diving into his work, it has allowed me to see things a lot clearer, to be able to understand the perfect nature of reality. Honestly, the moment that you can stop being polarized, stop being blown to and fro by whatever thing is happening in the outside world. Ooh, COVID. Ooh, vaccines. Ooh, Ukraine war. Ooh, what else is happening? Crimea or whatever is going on inside of that and the atrocities there. Talk about China invading Taiwan, talk about everything else that is a negative perception that the media is trying to show in your face, shove in your face, to be able to get clicks, to be able to get ad revenue, to be able to make sure that they can be what Joe Rogan is, to be honest. They're deliberately polarizing you. That's what the media does. The media makes you down and out and makes you other. The government does that because they know that they can control you. The moment that you're down oscillating in the amygdala, the moment the amygdala and the reticular activation system is triggered, you are going to be in fight, flight, freeze. And from there, you're easy to sway. You're easy to polarize. I can say a bunch of clickbait words right now that would make you feel something. The idea is for me to be able to teach you guys and for you to do the work yourself, that the moment that something is said, something external happens to you, you have a time and a place to be able to choose in the present moment your perception of the thing. See it as good, see it as bad, but also see the unconscious side, see the shadow side. Because if you don't, you're going to be polarized and you're going to be like the masses. The masses are down and out. They're constantly moving to and fro. They're not moving towards a straight and narrow path. On their path is all of the obstacles, all of the challenges, all of the things that are divine, in line, and right on time for them. That's me. That's my life. I'm moving towards where I know that I'm moving because it's intentional. That's where I'm moving. That's my North Star. I'm moving deliberately towards that thing. Things happen, obstacles happen, but it's my job to be able to understand that in the moment, this is divine, in line, and right on time so that I can move through it, around it, under it, over it, so I can learn from it, so I can destroy it, so I can do whatever I'm going to do, whatever I choose to do through light archetypes, through my perfect perception towards my North Star. Everything I do is aligned towards who I'm becoming. Everything comes down to energy. Everything comes down to resonance. So if I've got this diagram going on here, and I'll click back to it here. If I've got this diagram and I understand that everything is divine, in line, and right on time, and that is perfect, and the energy that I have is taking me into my future, but I want to oscillate in between this minimal perspective. Maybe I'll go up 10, maybe I'll go down 10, but instead of going up 100, down 100, I'm the one who chooses the way that I respond. I'm the one that chooses to understand that my perspective is all up to me. I'm the one who moves forward knowing fair well that I'm going to respond and not react, because reaction is shadow. Reaction comes from 4 different places ultimately. It comes because you're prostituting your body, you're victimizing yourself, you're sabotaging yourself, or you're a toddler having a tantrum. These are the 4 archetypes, the shadow archetypes of the lover, of the king, queen, of the warrior, and the magician. The moment you embody all of these light archetypes, you don't have to worry about oscillating across the polarities there. You know everything is perfect. You can see things that come up, and yes, you're going to be polarized. You're going to be afraid of something. You're going to resent something. There's going to be a whole host of other emotions that come into it as well. But the moment that you choose to step back, take a breath, and see things in between stimulus and the response that you give it, there is the present moment, and everything is perfect. You can say, I'm choosing this response. This is the way that I'm showing up. And it's challenging to do. Absolutely, it's challenging to do. But it is some of the most worthy work that you can do in embodying being the highest good that you can be. And I'm deliberately polarizing that because there's so much pain and there's so much evil in the world. Be the highest version of good that you can be. That's why I did so much work around religion. That's why I did so much work around that big G word, God, around Allah, around divinity, infinite intelligence, call it whatever you want to call it. Do the damn work. Understand where your resentments and where your triggers come from so that you can do the shadow work to be able to figure out what is the inline and not inline, the aligned version, the true version, the highest amount of truth that you can get, because that's what's in the present moment. When you are in the present moment and you don't have judgments, you don't have polarization going on, you have truth. Capital T, truth. That's all there is. Everything is divine, in line, and right on time. The moment that you're in the present moment, you choose what your reactions are. You choose to react, knowing that it's from a place of shadow. You jump on the kids, you rah, yell at them, stop that. You know, maybe that's a reaction that you need to work on. I know I've still got to do it. I know I talk with my children about when I'm reacting, and I say, hey, do I need to raise my voice? Do I need to start yelling to be able to get things across? Because I want you to understand that I will do that. I don't want to, but I will do that if that's the way that you need me to be. I will show up how you need me to show up. I will show up how you ask me to show up. So I'm asking you, do I need to yell and raise my voice to be able to get a point across, to be able to get you to do something? And the kids will say, no, Dad, and they'll do the right thing. And there will be times where I'll have to raise my voice because they've wanted to push it, because they've got their own polarity, they've got their own perceptions going on. But it's constant work. And that's the thing. Moving forward, it'll always be constant work. This diagram that I've given you guys isn't a set in stone thing. It's not something that you look at once. It's something that you do in every single moment of every single day. It's really fucking important that you do it. Not only for yourself, but to understand other people, to be able to understand your kids, to be able to understand your friends, your family, and your colleagues and acquaintances and every other person that you're against, that you're polarized against in the world. If you sit in the left of politics, or even center left like I do, everything to the people on the far right is far right. I'll start that again. If you sit in center left like I do, when it comes to politics, everyone that is far left from you thinks you're far right. If you're on the right wing of politics and you identify with economic or whatever the other version of republicanism or whatever it is on the right hand side, everything that you do is deemed as far right. That's just the world that we live in right now. That's how far things have oscillated to one side. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. This is a little bit more philosophical rambling. It's only because I've just listened to the book The Kabbalion for probably the 4th or 5th time. I'm going to strongly suggest that you guys read the book, because I'm going to do a podcast based on the Kabbalion, because the Kabbalion is talking about this stuff here. It is the 7 Hermetic principles. The 7 Hermetic principles coming from Hermes Trismegistus, coming from Thoth, coming from a few different other incarnations that they say that is Thoth or Hermes. It is another layer to be able to add on top of this diagram, and it's really, really cool. It's really profound, and it helped me a hell of a lot as well. I actually learned about this diagram and the 3 Initiates book at the same time together. So it kind of like created a synesthesia and made them come together. This work and understanding yourself, understanding emotions, understanding consciousness is, in my perspective, what we're here to do as humans. We're here to be able to level up our consciousness. We're here to be able to do generational trauma and all that sort of stuff, be on our straight and narrow path towards our North Star. Yes, absolutely. But if you aim at your North Star, or you don't know what you're aiming at yet and you're trying to aim at something and you're polarized to the fucking hills hoist, don't even bother. You need to work on your perceptions first. You need to work on your emotions first, because they're the things that are taking you to and fro. They're the things that are polarizing you. They're the things that are being manipulated by the media, by your friends, family, co-workers, and everyone else, because your perceptions are your perceptions. Choose your perceptions. Choose to see things as they are from the present moment. Things are perfect. And with that, we're going to leave it there, because it's been a lengthy podcast, but it is what it is. Much love, everyone. And like I said in the podcast a few times, if this is confused you, if this has polarized you, if this has made you a little bit inquisitive, a little bit curious, please reach out, message me, leave comments, do whatever you need to do, because I'd love to be able to help you guys. And until I see you in front of me as a client in the future, much love, take care, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care. Much love.